Welcome once again, Time Voyagers. Welcome to Blast of the Past, where we travel through the past to reach the future. I'm Braxton.
Andre at the booth, ready to go prehistoric.
And I'm Logan, and I'm ready to go primal! And in today's episode, we're going to update you on the animals that scientists are trying to revive from extinction.
Yes, and not just mammoths. We're talking about direwolves, thylacine, or better known as the Tasmanian tiger, and even the dodo bird. Throughout this podcast, we are going to analyze each species, the science behind bringing them back, and the case for and against their resurrection.
Alright, to get things started, direwolves. Not the on-screen computer-generated creatures on Game of Thrones, but those actual Ice Age hunters. These animals were bigger than the grey wolves you'll find now, with stronger jaws and greater body weight.
They became extinct approximately 13,000 years ago. Recently, the hype has been real. Colossal Biosciences, the very same company attempting to de-extinct the woolly mammoth, has announced that they are attempting to build a direwolf proxy using CRISPR and grey wolf DNA, which they now have successfully done.
And it gets even better from there. The direwolf's genome has already been sequenced to an extent, according to reports by Colossal. Because it is not possible to clone one exactly, what they're trying to do instead is the so-called functional equivalent. Their website expounds, our objective is not resurrection, it's restoration. We are trying to restore the main phenotypic characteristics of the direwolf into a contemporary hybrid. So technically, you could say it's not really a direwolf.
Alright, but why reintroduce the predator? The theory is that animals such as direwolves would help to keep overabundant prey animals in line and bring back balance to certain habitats. It's a rewilding idea.
Of course, there are huge ethical and environmental considerations for this. Ecosystems are different now. Returning an apex predator that has not set a foot on Earth for 10,000 plus years, that can blow up in your face fast.
And honestly, the public is not able to handle wolves as it is. Just consider all the controversy surrounding something actually called the direwolf.
Alright, enough about the direwolf. Here's the real myth. The showman. The crowd pleaser, the woolly mammoth. If there's one animal that screams for de-extinction, it's this Ice Age giant.
Oh.
Colossal's massive project is the most famous one. It consists in editing mammoth genes into the DNA of Asian elephants to develop an extremely cold-resistant hybrid that can survive the conditions of the Arctic.
Releasing these mammoth-like hybrids into the wild has the potential to recolonize the tundra of the Arctic, and also reduce permafrost degradation, an important contributor to global climate change.
That's pretty neat. But what's with a mouse? What's with a fucking mammoth mouse? What is that?
Well, that's a good question. In 2023, Colossal announced that they'd already edited elephant genes into a mouse embryo as proof of concept. That is, they are experimenting with the dynamics of mammoth-related characteristics in a simpler-to-handle, short-lived species as an intermediate step to scale up.
And even when it works, others contend that it is all hype, no assistance. A 2017 article published in Nature Ecology and Evolution argued that the cost of de-extinction by conservation may outweigh the benefits, because threatened species of today are still underfunded and unguarded.
In addition, elephants are extremely social and intelligent. Are we ready to deal with the emotional and ethical ramifications of producing hybrids that may not even be accepted as hybrids by either species?
Let's head to the down under now. The thylacine, or better known as the Tasmanian tiger, as stated before, was a carnivorous marsupial that saw its last member die in the 20th century. Its final known member perished in captivity in 1936, I believe.
Now, scientists at the University of Melbourne and biotech firm Colossal collaborate to revive it. How? You may ask. They used CRISPR and a close relative, the fat-tailed dunart, to insert the thylacine genes and grow an embryo in an artificial womb.
The objective is to restore Australia's degraded ecosystems. In the period since the thylacine became extinct, native animals have suffered devastation at the hands of invasive predators such as foxes and cats. A reintroduced thylacine may perhaps produce a natural check.
But, and it is one large but, Australia has altered habitat loss, climate pressures, and the urbanization make it highly unlikely that the return of the thylacine is possible, let alone thriving.
And as with the other de-extinction attempts, this creature we'll be receiving isn't the real deal. It'll be a surrogate. Identical biologically, but in terms of behavior, who knows?
We are perhaps solving one problem and creating another along the way.
And finally, the heavyweight, which Andre argued was the woolly mammoth, but this one's my favorite, and I think the most symbolic extinction figure of them all. The dodo bird.
The dodo, native but no more flighted Mauritian bird, had become extinct by the late 1600s, just about 100 years from the time man first established himself on the island. It is an emblem of what man can achieve.
And now it is to be revived by Colossal. The company is investing over $150 million into bringing the dodo back using archived DNA from specimen museums and pigeons as the starting material.
Ben Lamb, which is Colossal's co-founder, stated, "The dodo is such a good example of human-induced extinction. If we can restore it, we can change the story from one loss to one of recovery."
That is an intriguing consideration, but it is not that straightforward. The island of Mauritius is much different today. It has only 2% of its original forest cover remaining, as reported by Discover Wildlife. So then, where would the reintroduced dodo live?
And also, scientists now think that the dodo wasn't as valuable as an ecological species as everyone believed. It was slow, clumsy, and maybe not as vital to its environment. One biologist actually called it the most useless bird in history.
Ouch. And on one level, that makes it perfect subject for philosophers to reflect on. You know, do we restore it as an act of symbolic ability? Or do we let it stand as the abomination of what happens when human beings are on their own?
So far, we've spoken about the direwolf, the mammoth, the Tasmanian tiger, and the dodo. All of these are the subject of active de-extinction proposals, and as intriguing as the science is. The ecology and the ethics are far more complicated than the headlines suggest.
Exactly the question. The correct one is not do we, but rather should we? Are we reconstructing nature or rewriting it?
And what does that reveal about us when we keep bringing past back to life and cannot pin down the present?
Exactly. De-extinction can restore ecosystems, drive genetics, and inspire awe. But unless we're very careful, we might produce bigger problems than solutions. Go.
So what do you think, listeners? What animal do you choose to revive? Or do you leave extinction?
Join us on social media. Post your responses, debate with us, or let us know which animals below you'd vote to reintroduce.
Thanks for tuning in to Blast of the Past. Until next time, unless there's a stampede of mammoths which destroys the studio,